Now, hopefully I'll be able to see this. I don't know what this little monkey is doing here. Doing some monkey business. Monkey business. Anybody in the house?
Hello, hello, hello. It should be on. I think so. I'm texting our biggest fan here and asking her, is it on? And I says, we should be here. We should be on now-ish, but I don't know. I can't tell. So thanks for joining us. I think it's on.
Let us see. There's a lot going on. It was, we were just going to do a video and then decided, well, let's go live and let's see if we are connected. Okay, there we go. I see 19 current viewers.
Oh, okay.
It looks like it's starting to come through now. You never know what you're going to be facing. It's just par for the course.
There we go.
Okay, you got us?
Now let me see if I can.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your patience.
Sign into chat. Seriously? Why would I have to sign into chat?
That's weird. But yeah, we've been having all sorts of interesting things go on.
Special K is in the house.
Good.
Hi, Special K.
Appreciate you guys. KK, Special K, all the regulars. Ooh, I can see over there anyway. Oh, look at this. They're doing this again. Yeah, we've... You're not going to be able to get it over there. It takes me a while. Sorry, guys. They we're okay. We're okay. Cindy just likes to monitor with the second computer. So appreciate you guys for your patience here. And while we're getting everything up and going, there we go. I see 29 viewers now. Now I can't see the chat on the main screen. It's
I got it.
not surprising.
Yep.
Okay, good. So,
Well, I got you guys on my phone anyhow. So that old rotten sassy Susie, she's in the house, and you just be careful of her. She could be an ornery one. She really can. Hi, Miss Kristen, Daryl. Good to see you. Oneness, Rosemary. Uh-oh. So then we're trying to work on the other computer here. And I don't know. Always fun technical issues with us. I mean, it just seems like we're born with it. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. There's a problem. That's what we're saying. There is a problem with us in technology.
Oh, well, no. It's not, but see, it's not us. And people will say, well, you just don't know what you're doing. Yeah, well, I went and was taking in our Wayne Steiger's, live stream today because, Wayne goes live every weekday basically at 12. I made comments. I was logged into Evolutionary here, and I could see my comments going out. Now, I know I'm shadow banned. They will not let me make comments anywhere. So I switch over to EEARTS and go and look, and no, there's no comments there. So then when I said, hi, guys, people were like, hey, good to see you. But, this is what they do. This is working against the system. It's constantly trying to keep people away from knowing the truth. It is what it is. And you guys are light workers, and you're working on spreading that light, and they just don't like that because, these are denizens of darkness that we are battling against in more ways than one.
Well, we definitely can't do this alone. We need each and every single one of you to help us do this awakening because they are pushing back in every way they possibly can. So it's a mess. It's a mess, but we're just here to try to make that mess a little bit neater. Because no matter what we do, we're going to have to go through it, like a bull in a china shop. It's just not going to go well. But maybe you can do things like, put the china on there a little bit differently so it doesn't fall so easily. I don't know, Joe, what do you think?
I think that the timing is the most difficult thing to predict with all of this. On the other side, there is no time. So with me, forever, I've thought, oh my gosh, we're right around the corner. It could be any second. And again, I just cannot tell the time. But I do see people waking up and coming on to broadcasts like this and that's exciting to me that I get to see the change.
Isn't that nice? That is very nice that we get to be here to see the change. So that's just really cute. And Mike is just adding a whole bunch of hearts in the thing. He's so cute.
Well, we got tornado watch underway, and it was very, very stormy here a few hours ago. Pretty severe. We were thinking about going live, but then the power went off. So we were like, let's wait for the storms to pass, as the storms are moving east right now. And you could see, this big red box, which does include the New Orleans area. So if you are partaking in the festivities, this right here is Bourbon Street Cam. It looks like people are down there. It looks like people are going to party. I have heard that several events have been postponed or canceled because of the possibility of severe weather. But it looks like people are out in droves and doing their things on Bourbon Street.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing good. They're doing Bourbon Street stuff, kind of walking around, and
That's Bourbon Street stuff.
That's Bourbon Street stuff. Yep, it looks like something I'd probably be able to accomplish. I think.
Yeah, I went to Mardi Gras before that Hurricane Katrina blew through there, and it completely changed the atmosphere of this place. In fact, there's hardly any people there, right, as far as this view goes. And I mean, it was booming. I mean, talk about party town.
Yeah, that's too bad that an event like that, that's, comparing to like long-term time warps. If something like that really changed the energy of that whole area, I think it was karmic, because there's now all of a sudden there's these impressions of pain and trauma and karma and all of these things. I mean, the whole world must be full of those pockets of resistance when there's been certain traumas. Just curious.
Well, I saw a comment where somebody said, why is it that every time there's a storm, it's an extreme storm, a severe storm, that it seems to wipe out buildings? This one wiped out a warehouse in Louisville, Texas. So, again, eastern Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth were hit. It's every time. It's just like you can assume it when they say, well, there's a fair likelihood that you might have a severe storm, maybe even a tornado. They're coming. It's just what it is. This is, obviously a pretty decimated building here with the roof is ripped off. This is Plano West High School. Everywhere you look, it just is so quote unquote biblical. And there's an 18-wheeler that was blown over by 70 or 80 mile an hour winds. This is what they say were in the area. We did experience some pretty intense winds ourselves. Yeah, take shelter where you can when it gets like this. Again, I think a spiritual practice that you are practicing every single day, some sort of mind-body breath can do wonders. And it also, again, since the source of everything is in you, you can affect the weather. And, they don't want you to know that. They want you to think that they control everything with their technology, their satellites, their seeding programs, all the energy waves that we see always going through areas.
Yeah, right when that pauses, it almost looks like right there, like a skull. Do you see the eyes from the side?
No, I didn't, but let's see. It'll roll again.
Right there. If you stop it right there, it's a side view of the head.
Oh, it does.
You see that? Isn't that crazy?
It's like a big skull face. Gross.
And it's just weird how
now I see it.
Yeah. So it's really strange how when some real important news is about ready to come out, they will distract us with some kind of weather event, or some Hollywood person will die, and God forbid. I do send love and light to these individuals regardless, but when we find out how bad some of these people have been over the years, people are going to lose their minds. And again, I don't want to go down that doom and gloom, but I'm going into the reality part of what's been going on. Some of this is, I really believe it's theater and distraction.
It is, and they do a lot of it. And it's just kind of sort of constant. And I think the best way to deal with it is recognize it, but then let it go. But you still have to recognize it, because we all have to kind of live in the soup of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Frankie and the blue nosed puppy and friends says, "What happened? You guys okay?" We're fine. We're fine. Just strong storms. And, it was getting pretty severe. I mean, the weather looked really severe. I watched clouds come from the back of the house, and they're traveling in one direction, and then they curve like there's a rotation developing as it was heading out in front of the house. So we got inside, we do our mantras, and Joe can attest. Joe doesn't really do mantras at this point on a regular basis, but yet as soon as we did the mantras, the weather settled.
Yeah, it was actually pretty amazing. And we both, Mike and I, there's two recliners here, and we're sitting next to each other. And as him and Cindy are doing the mantras, it wasn't long, maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and all of a sudden the rain died down, the wind died down, and him and I looked at each other because we're both like, "Isn't that amazing?" How we can literally influence our surroundings.
They just don't want us to know that. They don't want us to know that on all kinds of levels. And in order to do that, they have to create these control constructs that we think we can't get out of.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's so good to see all you guys. Mr. Mission Control Zoe, good to see you. Lorraine Weber, good to see you. Positive Vibration, Columbus, Ohio, welcome aboard. Glad you are here. Enigma, Stacy, it's great. Rasta Bear, awesome to see all the familiar faces and energies. Yeah, what I do is send out the intention to all the elementals that are out there to basically protect us. And so, concentrate and understand that there are elemental beings. These are beings. These are conscious beings that maintain the trees, they maintain the flowers, and all different sorts of living things. And they also are out there, literally in the clouds. And you can communicate with them. And that might sound crazy, but yes, you could definitely communicate with them. They're not used to people communicating with them typically when we're talking Kali Yuga. However, when we're outside of the Kali Yuga, open communication with these elemental beings is just a natural and a given.
And I'm looking in the live thing, and I see like 5 or 6 people saying, "Hey, I caught a live, I caught a live, I caught a live." I am so glad you guys caught a live, because the more the merrier, and this is a lot of fun. It's a lot of extremely positive energy and truth being swirled around in the same pot. It's always fun.
Yeah, so we're talking about the elemental places and spaces, and one of the places that I went that with my eyes and with on the camera and with at least 20 other witnesses, we saw some of these elemental beings. And this was at East Eddy Ranch. I mentioned it the other day, but I mean, there were so many experiences I had there just over several days that I was there. And again, it's a hot spot for all kinds of activity, whether it be UFOs, whether it be elementals, whether it be Bigfoot, it was just completely amazing to me. Again, as the scientist, all my degrees, my associate, bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, they're all in science. And so I have to look at it from that standpoint and see if it's reproducible. And, I'm already convinced, that this stuff is real, but it's been hidden from us. And especially, I think what helped me was having experiences prior to going into all these fields of study, which they program you. And I'm sure I'm not alone out there. I'm sure there are other providers, professionals in various walks of life that have had experiences prior to their profession, which leaves them open-minded to the possibility and talking to other people that have had similar experiences.
Mm-hmm. I think so many people, it just creates that block, and they think they have to go by certain rules for something to be true. And, we put blocks on ourselves. Our human body is a block. Plus, we can have blocks put on us through education. And, if you don't already go in it with a little bit of a different understanding, you can get stuck and it's just too scary to step out of, or too scary to say, well, maybe that wasn't true. And that's why I love to see moms homeschooling, because when they're having to give their child this information, which isn't fair, but they have to give their child certain information on curriculums, and I don't always agree with what they're saying at all ever, but I was at least able to set my daughter down and say, okay, this is what the science book says this year. It doesn't mean it's going to be right next year. And I kept her mind open. It was something that I'm really glad I was able to give my daughter, is that open mind, and she's showing it to this day. I'm very proud of her.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Mission Control was talking about Black Mirror scrying. And I do think that was one of the key things in my spiritual life when I made a Black Mirror at home from scratch. I want to say I was probably 22 or 23, and so I started to use it on a regular basis. And I literally, at that age, saw myself more like this age, and then I do believe I also viewed my face in past lives as well. And we were talking about that, Joe, weren't we?
Yeah. So one of the experiences that I had was learning about looking into a mirror at yourself, and it's kind of it's difficult to say over the radio, but it's basically you're looking at yourself, but you're using your peripheral vision, and all of a sudden your face, the shapes shift to what I would consider past lives, what you looked like, who you were. You can do this with your significant other as well. Like maybe you're sitting in the living room across from one another and you just stare at each other. And once you get over the laughter of the craziness of looking at each other like that, then you focus your attention and you almost shift your vision. You can it's kind of weird. Once you do it and you get onto it, you're like, whoa, this is crazy. Wow, I see. And you'll see all kind of different races, faces. It's just amazing. It's something that's I don't know. I'm always interested in something that's different, and that it's definitely different.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's definitely different, and learning all of these different ways to discern and understand and experience our world, I think is something that's just, it's so important. People need to step out of those boxes.
As you might know, Serbia is having a lot of protests, bordering on riots at times. This is their parliament. Look at this craziness in the Serbian parliament. I think, again, we've only been exposed to this type of system, and I mean in general, parliament, Congress, kings and queens, and of course, dictators, and communism, capitalism, democracy, republic, etc., etc., etc. I think we got to think out of the box. We need to think out of the box. Absolutely, term limits are one thing. What if everybody was only elected for each year or something like that? And, you got to think out of the box when it comes to the way the monetary system and the political system intermesh and allow people to make, $120,000 a year salary and somehow have $200 million net worths because of insider trading and, let's just be honest, bribery, because it goes on constantly.
Well, I think we need to look at the world and understand that we're co-creators, and we can do this thing, and when enough people are awake and they realize, hey, this isn't what I want, or even if a smaller amount of people with double the willpower would say, oh, I want something different, we can start to kind of go down those pathways, but we can't if we can't even imagine it. So that's where education can get us in trouble, and it can lock us in these boxes, because thoughts are things. Thoughts are like actual physical things. And when we create a thought, we are creating a thing. So we need to see what we really want. We need to visualize that.
I think that sometimes we have to think outside the box of how these politicians get paid. When I was a general contractor, I would go bid the job, I'd get a certain amount down, and then there'd be a draw as things developed. And you know what? I'll bet you they would work a heck of a lot harder if they didn't get paid until the work was done that we, the people, wanted. But unfortunately, there's a slew of corruption in here, and so we got to get rid of that first and almost start over, because the system that's in place is not working. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm sure there's a lot smarter people out there that would be better suited to run, even at the local level. Start with the counties and then just work your way the whole way up. But the problem, again, is the corruption, the corporations, and how it's all interrelated like that.
Well, I think what they do is they make you very, very comfortable. And, if you're doing a certain thing and they make you comfortable as long as you're doing a certain thing a certain way. And then if you stop, well, they're going to make you uncomfortable. So they have this control grip on people. And sometimes they can't do what they want until after they retire, which is really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, again, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, President Trump's going to address Congress. Will there be more smoke and chaos in Serbia or here in the U.S.? We shall see. Here you have Elon posting 17 politicians saying all the exact same things, same time. Yeah, it's true. We saw a few of these come through initially, and yeah, it's just so obvious. They're all reading the same lines from the script. And, of course, we're talking about the Democratic side of things in opposition to 47 and everything he's doing. We recognize that there's one system which is subdivided and does fight amongst itself, or at least at the public view level, we should say, But then again, there's also something that's different going on, and that is literally the tug and pull of the higher selves of those, aforementioned politicians that are also leaning on them. When you're in a Kali Yuga, or when you're in a descending Bronze Age going into a Kali Yuga, it's like the darkness is spreading. It's like, what was that? What was that? Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones. Winter's coming, right? Remember, winter's coming, and the Legion, the army of the dead is coming, and all that. That's a descending Bronze Age heading into a Kali Yuga. We're on the opposite side of that now. So, the darkness is losing its grip. There's cracks everywhere. And even amongst those that have controlled a lot of, the apparent leadership positions, their higher selves are connecting more to these people. These people have been cut off from their higher selves. Now, this is a totally different thing when we start going down the real rabbit hole of NPCs. Because as it turns out, not everybody's human, number one. Not everybody's human. Not everybody might even be flesh and blood. I mean, there could be more like, what we think of as with cyborgs and robotics, more like maybe Terminators here taking a political stage. Why do they seem hell-bent for war? Because, again, that's how they control us.
Mm-hmm. They do. They have a pretty good grip. And, I think it's important to always keep in the back of your head, you might still be in a box. Even though you have these belief systems and you've learned things and you've expanded, you could still be in a box. And that way, I don't think you just kind of take everything for granted, like I know everything, because once your cup is full, you can no longer put anything in it.
You know how in poker that you're watching your component or your the competitors, and they have a tell a lot of times. And so these politicians, when they come out and every single one of them is reading the exact same script, that's telling of who is not working for us anymore, or may have not been working for us ever, really. And so, I mean, right off the bat, you can be like, okay, well, this is supposed to be by the people, for the people. Who's giving out the script, and what agenda do they have in mind? And obviously, again, it's a tell. So those are the people that need to pluck the weeds out and get rid of these people.
Well, and then this is obviously Putin, and he gave a speech where he was talking again about, NATO, they seem to be intent on starting war, and here you have the America and 47 trying to avert war, at least with Ukraine, because it's a different situation when we're talking Iran and the Middle East, totally different. But at least there's, the apparent try to create peace on that one front. So Putin is saying, we do not need a world without Russia. And, the world may end earlier, but Russia will not fall. Russia will not be defeated. And he goes on to say, I believe in God, and God is with us. So, again, advising to calm the rhetoric when it comes to a European unified move against Russia, which some nations are pushing for. This is Jim Ferguson. He's over in the UK, by the way. Europe moves to a war footing, globalists desperate to block Ukrainian peace deal. And you have NATO conducting its biggest war exercise since the Cold War, 90,000 troops on the move, British forces drilling just miles from Ukraine while NATO battle groups expand in Eastern Europe. Russia making moves of its own, securing positions, preparing for negotiations. And, all this talk about France and the UK going to send, and Germany, perhaps sending troops to Ukraine when you have so many other people calling for peace. And I was listening to Wayne Steiger again talking, and he has these two lovely ladies on every week, and I think it's their, today's Tuesday, regular Tuesday thing. But, bringing up, no mama wants to send their baby off to war. I mean, hell no. And there's no way, because what's this war for? What does it really do? It again allows fat, greasy politicians to become fatter and greasier. It just feeds the military-industrial complex, and this is part of how these people that have $100,000, $120,000 salaries, develop bankrolls of hundreds of millions because they don't care about anybody's life and death other than their own.
No, they're just, that's the way they are, and it's in their nature. And just like a scorpion will always sting, it's just in their nature. You can't tuck a scorpion out of stinging. You can't tuck a flower out of not blooming. It's just their nature to behave that way. So I don't see how anything can really fix it unless they're just completely plucked up from the root system and all new everything is born. But that's going to take for us to come together in a big way.
Yeah, when I look at this, I'm looking at the grand stage of things. And so if President Trump in our country, of course, wants peace, and he's been negotiating with both Zelensky and Putin, and now over in England and other UK, the nation is over there, what does that look like when all of a sudden we're not aligned with Great Britain and France and Germany, where they're giving money to Ukraine, and now we're not going to? I mean, I'm just kind of looking at it like, how does that? The whole world changes for us, and like, are we going to be going it alone? What does that look like? Do we now all of a sudden align with Russia, or I mean, this whole thing, the whole dynamics looks like it's about ready to change, and I'm just kind of seeing it from a different angle, going, this is a little bit. I don't want to use the word alarming, but I am concerned. I'm like, what's next? What are they doing on the grand stage?
I do think what's next is something that is going to be very disconcerting for a lot of people, because here we go. I mean, and I'll finish this line of thinking. Italian Prime Minister Meloni is not going to send Italian troops with the French and the Ukraine units, UK to Ukraine. So you guys go, my troops are not going. However, what I do see is there's this, it's so easy to see the factions within the factions. Because I'll give you, another little alliance that's going on. There's these overtures between Argentina and the U.S. There was talk, Trump was mentioning maybe making Argentina preferred, like, trading partner status, something like that he was mentioning. and you have Javier Milei down there. Now, I don't want to go too deep into things because we don't need any major dark attacks on us at this point in time, although we are protected, absolutely. But yes, Argentina. Look to Argentina. Look to here, right? Maloney has been very supportive of sending money and military equipment in a different direction, east of Italy. If you know what I'm talking about, heading over towards the Middle East, well, basically that's it. And I do feel this is like a deal where, okay, please look away we'll look away over here and you do what you want. But when we go and do this down there, then look away while we do that.
There's also, I'm watching the financial part of this whole thing and how President Trump initially came out and was like completely against the Bitcoin, and he wasn't a fan, as he put it. And now all of a sudden he comes out and XRP and I think SOL or I'm not sure what, I'm not real familiar with some of these cryptos, but I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the Iraqi dinar, and one of the things that I'm watching on the grand stage is the financial, I hate to use the word collapse, but how do they flip the script to going from the old SWIFT system? And I've experienced this. If you were going to get money from, say, the UK and send the money to the US, the pound was worth more than the dollar, first of all. And it took like a week to get here, and it cost it was ridiculous. It was like $100 and some to get it over here. So even though there was a difference with the conversion, what they're saying, if you follow what the experts are saying within this digital asset community, they're talking about the ledger. They're talking about how it can transfer within seconds and only cost pennies, which is completely different than our old system. It's all dinosaur and antiquated, and here we are. We're right. It seems to me we're at the precipice. Again, I'm bad with time. I see what it's going to happen. I just don't know when. And when are they going to flip that switch? I'm really, really curious to see what President Trump is going to say tonight and how that's going to influence the markets. You were saying earlier, Mike, about the Dow was down 700 and some points.
Yeah, and this I'm glad Joe's here because he has some expertise in areas that me and Cindy don't, especially when it comes to the crypto and that type of thing. Because so many of you guys do speak that language, and you're wondering what to do. I don't have any info for you there, but Joe may have some that you might find useful. But what I can share is, again, the Polish psychic Christoph, and I watched him pretty thoroughly. I really do. I am super impressed with his abilities, but not only that, he really seems to understand the financial aspects of things a lot better than maybe many people, and he sees that there's going to be a little dip and then the big one. The big one's coming, so he thinks the big one's coming this year. He kept getting the 8th month, which you would look at as August, but I think he's seeing OCT. October is what I think he's seeing, and that makes sense because again, we've had most of our economic big declines more towards September-October period. It's more of a fall thing. And I think it will coincide again with the expansion of certain hostilities in certain areas. So I think you can see the writing on the wall. I'd be very, very careful with any sort of investing. Again, when I listen to these guys that are experts about these times, they'll say, stuff that's tangible is absolutely the safest thing. So if you own some silver, if you're able to buy gold, it's so incredibly expensive. Those two things could definitely behoove you to have around. And again, not certificates, because you don't know if a company that's holding certificates goes out of business, you're screwed. It's just plain and simple. Real estate, actual property, is very valuable. You're not going to lose, even if it bumps here and bumps there. Ultimately, what do we know? Well, we know that BlackRock and Vanguard are buying up tons of property. They're on track, along with other of the big hedge funds, to own 60% of the residential property in the company. Well, USA is Inc., by the way. So whether we use company or country, they are interchangeable. That's the reality too. And you may have heard that before and laughed it off, but it is the reality. Anyway, they're on track to own like 60%, more than half of the literal single-family homes in the country by 2030-ish. And there's, of course, that Agenda 2030. You could see it all coming together. So, cash, you've heard cash is king, but cash is going to be done away with. And people were bringing wheelbarrows of cash. We could dig up Weimar Republic photos. You'll see them bringing wheelbarrows and walking away with one loaf of bread. So you got to think about that. And we're doing a lot of projects. Once this main project that we're doing is done, then we will be making a chicken coop, and we will be having our own fresh eggs, and planning a lot more too.
I thank you so much, KK, and
Recalcitrant.
thank you, Recalcitrant. You guys, we really appreciate it. We need the boosts where we can get it. We're all kind of going through a thing. We're all trying to make our way together, and that really absolutely helps in many ways. Thank you guys.
So, developing a relationship with local farmers is another thing that people could do. If you can't afford this, you got to sometimes be a little bit creative. We're going to be building a chicken coop, having chickens to have fresh eggs, but you could also, at least back home where I'm from, there's many Amish families, and you develop a relationship with them, and it's like, okay, what can you offer if things go south for a period of time? Do you have a water supply? And Mike mentioned the tangible things, and so you can't eat gold or silver, but yeah, you might be able to trade with it. So it's nice to have a diversity of ideas, and maybe like Mike, he's a great cook, so I would leave it up to him to. I'll go out and forage, and you can do the cooking, and maybe I can build the chicken coop for you. And again, I don't like to think of it as we're going to be going that far south with all this, but you never know. So, prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and you'll be in a better position than sitting there. In when you're flying a plane, the old saying is you'd rather be on the ground wishing you were in the air than in the air wishing you're on the ground. When the turbulence hits and you're up there, bouncing around, it's similar to, something like whenever things go south in the world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wouldn't be surprised if you've ever caught the energy between Prime Minister Maloney and Elon. She might be the bearer of Elon's 15th, 16th, 17th, or maybe 20th child. It could happen. There definitely seems to be a little chemistry there going between these two. As I was talking about alliances, Argentina, Italy, and obviously that country in the Middle East and the U.S., there are different alliances coming about. Meanwhile, with the shift from relying on the U.S. to be the military force of NATO primarily, again, like 85% of all the military heavy lifting, including cash, is the U.S. So European weapons companies' shares prices skyrocket after UK and France push for Ukraine peace deal after the Trump disaster. Again, this is changing the landscape in a way we haven't seen before. It really is kind of like scrambling before the big battles. And what sort of twists and turns are we going to have? Can we not have these big battles? I am really, really hopeful of that. I'm really, really hopeful that certain higher selves take hold and, get people to maybe pull some surprises on the control structure in a positive way, in a peaceful way. Record number of Americans are applying for UK citizenship, election of 47, and British tax changes are believed to be behind the 40% rise in applications. Or is it all just going from Hollywood?
Oh, yeah. You know, it's something that, you know, we have to walk through the muck, and having friends that understand it is so extremely helpful. You can help each other. We can help each other to get through it. I know one of the problems we see a lot when we're working with someone is that they're alone. They feel alone, but they might have a friend, maybe two friends that understand the way they are. And we really have to pull together and pull that energy together for ourselves to get through this. I mean, it's a very, very confusing time, and I think they make that deliberately. So I think it helps if we have each other to keep each other grounded.
Yeah, I think about the celebrities prior to President Trump getting in and threatening that if he gets in, that they're leaving the country and they're never coming back. And you know, when I lived in Arizona here not too long ago, there was a transition of people moving out of California into Arizona, and the locals, of course, they would see my license plate, which was from Pennsylvania, and they were giving me stuff. They're like they would to anybody that's an outsider, and they're like, "Look, you guys can come here, but just leave your politics why you're moving out of there." And I think people forget that they're bringing them with themselves. And you know, you'd go into a store and people were being rude, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? And you know, you talk to the locals, and you find out that's what some of the frustration is the reason it's nice there is because of their current politics and their belief systems. And you know, people are moving there and trying to bring these other belief systems to the region.
We have many dear friends in the UK. I was thinking about that again. The UK is about 93,600 square miles. So the United States itself is 40 times that. And so even Texas is almost 3 times the size of the UK, but Texas has less than 1/3 of the people. So when you look at it, Scotland's about the same size as South Carolina. Wales is smaller than New Jersey, and California is bigger than England. So again, it's really population dense, and there's not a lot of forest like we're used to over here in the U.S. Not a lot of places you could really escape to. There's plenty of places you could escape to in Canada, but you can't escape the horrible governance that's up there, and that's just my opinion, of course. As you have Trudeau here, he is saying, well, let's listen. Let's see here.
One thing he has said repeatedly, that what he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy, because that'll make it easier to annex us.
Yeah, so, you know, again, the trade war now, it's real. You know, I read an article today where they're talking about you may see an increase in produce from Mexico in just a week's time. You know, Mexico produces well, as far as our imports go, it's like 60% of our produce imports come from Mexico here in the United States. Only 2% from Canada. Very, very small. But whatever you're going to see come in from abroad, it's going to change. I'm a fan of a certain very small guitar company, and they generally have amazing deals on guitars that quality-wise are really good for under $200. Well, now they're up to $300, and it's limited what's available. So, you know, you're going to see this. And again, tip the hat to Christoph, because the Polar Psychic saw this. He said that food prices that we have been paying, and this was back around December, around Christmas and Thanksgiving, are going to look low compared to what we have in the spring of this year. In just another maybe 6 weeks' time, you're going to see a big increase. Now, I noticed certain things were actually surprisingly cheap, and other things, yeah, they've gone up a lot. So it's going to depend on where you are and what exact items you're looking at. But bringing, again, if the U.S. is not producing something, it has to bring it in from Mexico, you could expect the prices to skyrocket.
Yeah, aren't the tariffs supposed to go into effect today?
Yeah.
For Canada and Mexico.
Yeah.
And so you've got to wonder, what does that look like when we impose, the 25% or however many percent tariff on a country? What will they do in retaliation to comp that loss financially? And so, is it spread out over, say, produce or milk or other supplies? I mean, I know President Trump, he's, from what I saw, what was it, yesterday? I think he had somebody on, and I'm not watching the mainstream news, so I just have to, I watch clips here and there, but I think it was Taiwan that, are they going to bring either $100 billion into the country for chips, like microchips?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Taiwan thing. The reality is when you look at what he's trying to do, if we look at it from a traditional economical standpoint, the reason why the U.S. was able to do what it was able to do in World War II, and I do believe it was a concerted effort from the control system to build up the factories and have all the manufacturing be placed in the U.S., because again, more natural resources and an abundance compared to what other countries are. Again, how big the U.S. is. Well, as we know, so much of the manufacturing went abroad. And I grew up in a time period where it was really, the focus was on Japan, not even China, cheap Japanese goods. Well, if I'm talking guitars, some of the best guitars in the world are coming from Japan. The craftsmanship is amazing. So, that's not cheap by any means now. And we used to think of China as cheap, but, even China itself, it's not as cheap as far as the goods and services that we bring in as they become more and more the economic powerhouse of the world, which, we don't really know what the real stats are. But one thing we do know is that our manufacturing was sent abroad. So, the steel mills, the automotive industry, all this, we don't have the capability to switch over to that wartime footing if you're talking a global world war and be able to keep up with what China can produce. It's not even close. This has been done completely on purpose. And yet 47 is doing what he can to shift that, but it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it takes decades because it's been going away for decades.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of getting to. It's like you can see the trend and how, we're trying to right the ship, but again, it's a time thing. And so will we be able to, bring back our jobs and our industry and everything in a timely manner before things get too crazy here? And then, you look at some of these three-letter agencies like the EPA, and it was almost like it was a type of mafia because of the industry. Yeah, we needed to stop some of this pollution and things here, but when you look at other countries that they don't even have anything like that, and they have this carbon tax and all this other crap that's going on, and of course to compete, people would move. So I think as far as being unified as a planet, if everybody could get on the same page about respecting each other and personally and from country to country, that would be a start.
Mm-hmm. It has a lot to do with us. It has a lot to do with our ability to connect with one another and heal ourselves and make those trusted connections. That's something that we definitely don't have, is trust in this world.
Well, I think there is trust among certain circles. So, like seeing all the familiar names in this chat group. Yeah, definitely there's trust there. Here's Pierre Polivier. He's the opposition party, the Conservative Party's candidate, which again, I thought Trudeau was stepping down. It's been months and he still hasn't stepped down. Yeah, he says Trump stabbed America's best friend in the back. My message to the president is this: Canada will fight back. So, again, there's interesting ties when you see his ties. He has the same sort of ties I'm talking about when we talk about Argentina, when we talk about Italy, and the political leadership, that Middle Eastern country, et cetera, et cetera. Here you have President Trump laying down the new rules on campus protests. All federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protests. Agitators will be imprisoned or permanently sent back to the country from which they came. American students will be permanently expelled or, depending on the crime, arrested. No masks. Thanks again for your attention to this matter. With the plague upon the land, we had everybody wearing masks, and then certain people chose to never stop. Well, this looks like we're heading into a different period, and maybe it'll go just the polar opposite. Again, the pendulum swings.
It is. It's swinging, and you have to kind of be in the right spot. And one of the problems you run into is, well, they say, well, be prepared for anything, and I agree. I wish we could be prepared for anything, but when you start to think about, well, what does anything mean? it does tend to get a little bit overwhelming, and that's why we really push into the spiritual side of things, because it's so hard to prepare for anything. I don't know that anyone could. There is a lot of places where people were prepared, and those areas just totally got wiped out. They were prepared for anything, and sometimes you need that extra layer of spiritual protection.
Yeah, whenever I see a post like that with President Trump commenting like that, I mean, to me, it's positive. It's like, you know what? We don't need any more of this craziness. And it's a change for the better in my mind. As long as it keeps on going down that path, I'm all about it.
I agree.
And this is in Taiwan. I mean, look at this sinkhole just develop and suck that car right in there. Oh boy, the changes that we have going on the planet, they are enormous. And will we recognize it in maybe 2035? I don't know.
That's pretty scary stuff.
Now, is that actually, you don't see it shaking like an earthquake or anything like that? How do we know that that's not like an underground tunnel that had been just bored, or, you put a certain amount of weight and the next thing you know, there it is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of underground tunnels all across the globe. BlackRock agrees to purchase the Panama Canal ports from the Chinese company Hutchinson. Now, this says, huge win for Trump international diplomacy. Pressure works. Hong Kong-based C.K. Hutchison sells Panama Canal ports to BlackRock. BlackRock? I don't know where people have their heads when, if they think BlackRock expansion is a good thing, I'm just speechless.
The only thing I can think of with this is if this is kind of like eminent domain where the government steps in and takes your property and, allow these, like somebody like BlackRock to accumulate all this, and then the government comes in and they're just like, hey, this is a monopoly. We need to break this up and take over.
Yeah, well, and again, so what's the alternative between China controlling the Panama Canal or BlackRock controlling? Well, again, how about the people themselves, and not something that the politicians of Panama to utilize for their own personal benefit, but, again, trickle down economics. None of this works in our favor. It's again, one system, ultimately, and this is Jakarta, Indonesia, and we are having flooding on a global level that is making many people look to Tartaria and mud floods, because it seems like we are in the early to mid-early stages, and just how bad will this get?
Oh, that's just terrible. I mean, look, they're normalizing it.
Yeah, so I can see, even since I was a child, the changes in the environment, the climate from where I'm from, and it's definitely not normal. But my question again is this a natural event, or is this man-made with the technology and the spraying and the HAARP and all the other crap that's going on? Is this a manipulation for another cause? So I don't know the answer to that. But I'm open-minded to the possibilities.
I don't know. I just kind of look at it and say, well, what have they done in the past? Is there any evidence that there could be a problem here? Would they ever do that to anyone? I don't know. I kind of think they might.
Well, we do get that Mother Earth is when it's time, she is going to wash away the vestiges of the system. This is in the Canary Islands, by the way. So, this is like almost exactly across the globe from the floods in Indonesia. So, I mean, we just see this every single day somewhere. Oh boy. And this is why we buy our cows, we don't buy any beef from the stores. We buy it local. Joe can tell you, we stopped into our local place and said, was today the day that you were getting, and I understand, for the vegetarians out there, it's tough to listen to. I do believe cows have souls. They're sacred in India. Everything has a soul, though. Ultimately, I do think every single living creature has a soul. Maybe not the politicians that, with the dark cabal. That could be different, but that's a totally different topic. But at the same time, we stopped in the store and said, was this the day you said you were restocking the freezer?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it's supposed to be any day now, actually. So, and of course, we had this apocalyptic storm coming through the area. So Mike and I, we were, in hot pursuit for some fresh beef. And so, we kind of stocked up. And again, it's better to be prepared than not. And so back home, my mom, she's a wonderful woman. She's going to be 81. And she has I've planted these seeds for decades now, and she has listened to me, and now she's like, okay, well, I'm going to buy the whole cow, and then there's 5 of us kids, and then grandkids, and great-grandkids, and so my mom buys the cow, and then we distribute it amongst the family, and it's local. And, if you just assume, and I'll give you examples of this, like, I went to State College to pick berries, and they were pristine, perfect. And I'm like, oh, these things are wonderful. And then it dawns on me, wait a minute, there's not one bug bite. The leaves have no holes in them. I mean, they were perfect. And so I asked the lady, because she said they were, she didn't say organic. I think the seeds were. But I said, well, do you spray? And she says, well, yeah, my husband does. And I said, well, where do you get the spray? Well, we get it from Walmart. It's up on this shelf. And so after I had purchased these strawberries, I went in and I looked. And, of course, it had glyphosate and all this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. So, again, you can't just assume because it's local that it's being grown organically and using non-genetically modified seeds. You literally have to ask. And so my mom, she got annoyed by me asking the farmers because, sometimes they get offended. But I'm like, I need to know what's going in my body. And after a while, she is actually really researching, and she has a boyfriend now that he's on TikTok. And so he buys everything. Oh, well, Paul says blah, blah, blah with TikTok. And therefore, Dr. TikTok it supersedes her son, who has been telling her all this stuff forever. And so I'm always like, oh, you talk to Dr. TikTok. Okay, well, then it must be real, Ma. But it's funny how your family comes back around if you've planted the seeds.
I know. I mean, if bugs are not eating something, there's a problem. I know one of my daughters dropped a bag of Doritos in our yard, and I found that, and there wasn't one bug on it. Not one bug would touch it. The mice wouldn't touch it. Nothing would touch it. The birds wouldn't touch it. If the other animals aren't eating it, it's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a wild one. UFO alert in Turkey. Flights were suspended at Gaziantep Airport on Monday night after pilots reported a luminous, unidentified flying object at 10 o'clock local time. Pilots of an aircraft reported spotting a bright, unidentified object at altitude of about 8 to 10,000 feet. UFO alert in Turkey's 6th biggest city led to chaos at the airport. Pretty wild. The object, which did not appear on radar, was reported to air traffic control, prompting authorities to halt flights as a precaution. One Turkish expert claimed the light might have been coming from a Starlink satellite, not at 8 to 10,000 feet. No. Following the suspension, authorities conducted investigations in and around the airport. After confirming no immediate threat, flights resumed approximately 3 hours later. Investigations are ongoing. There was UFO panic in Istanbul's airport as well. Again, over a UFO. Was it a drone? Again, they're investigating. They don't know. Very curious. Very curious. Again, if it's some sort of spirit orb or truly a plasma ship, then there's nothing to worry about. If it's a drone, then that's a totally different scenario.
I think the human-made things are problematic.
I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
And so it just, again, is this another distraction? It's like, will we ever get to the truth? Like, it's just so frustrating.
Well, again, it's Turkey too. So Turkey's a large country. It's actually the second largest military as far as NATO goes after the U.S. This is a good point. Why aren't these built on new homes? Here you go, raised beds in your sunroom. Just think about it. It's just south facing. You could grow your own produce, have your own fresh herbs every single day of the year.
And you just have it right there in the back of the kitchen there and just go get your stuff.
So when I was in New Mexico, they have these, what they call earth ships. And they do have this. And I mean, everything is like biodegradable, the septic, the water, if you're showering, and it's amazing what you can do. And it's low technology. It's not even anything. This is gravity fed, and I mean, just maybe there's just a small windmill, or maybe there's a little solar panel. But those earth ships, they stay basically tropical. And like if anybody would like to see something that's amazing, if you can't drive there and physically walk through the place, look it up on YouTube, because they are really cool.
Right. And we could do better, we could have more, but it's like a technology that I guess they don't want the masses to have, so it makes it kind of hard to go find a place and get the help to create them.
And that was something that you and I were thinking about, and that's why we were in New Mexico, and why we were in the desert. But ultimately, the love of trees, definitely swayed us back a little bit more. Yeah, grass, water. This is some sort of reflective object on Mars, they say. They say again. There's a lot more to Mars than we've been truly told. There's a lot more to our solar system than we've been told.
I don't know. That to me, it's just kind of hard to say what it might be. I kind of feel like it could be a lot of things.
Yeah, that's pretty
smooth.
Yeah, but that could be anywhere. Like they're telling us it's Mars, but that could be a gazillion different things, really.
If you go to the other picture over, it looks like a person's skin. It looks like their skin. Yeah, it looks like a cell or a drop of water or something.
If you look on somebody's their seat, like a leather seat in their car, you could put like a metal object or something, and then take a picture close up, and it's exactly what I'm saying. Oh heck, I could be a gazillion different things.
Yeah, and there's when they take pictures of Mars, there's so many places that are in the desert on Earth that look exactly like the pictures that they take. So how do you know?
I don't know. It could be a mole on somebody's bum. Who knows? Who knows? Buffalo City Hall. Look at this. Would you picture this being in Buffalo, New York, upstate New York? That's beautiful, but it has such a Southwest feel. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Again, there's a lot of channels that do deep dives into this. Oh, look at that. The two. That almost reminds me of a Sumerian or something, eagle or phoenix. interesting when we look at these buildings that they tell us, oh, yeah, they put that up in a couple weeks in 1890. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and they just did. Yeah, don't ask any questions.
Well, when you start doing your own like research and the history of when did they come out with the car, and then when did they come out with a pickup truck or a huge dump truck, and what could it haul and how many tons and where did the stone come from, where was it quarried? You start to ask all these questions. It's like, is it even possible that they could have done this in the late 1800s? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And this, to me, looks like an apartment building that was blasted with a directed energy weapon.
Yeah, it looks like it melted.
Yeah, so could that have been like way back before this civilization, like a nuke that went off? Or could it have been an energy-directed weapon from space? I mean, it looks, like you said, it looks like at one time it was probably squared off and now it just kind of melted.
Yeah, just melted.
Yeah, so Kimberly says, I can't do this alone anymore. It is hard to do this alone, especially like if you're not alone, literally, but you're the only one that's awake in your family, then boy, does that get frustrating.
It does. It makes it really tough. And that's where, when you do have friends that understand the way you do, they're that much more valuable because you know how many people are not on the path. And it's just, that's the wrench in our engine right now. It's like so many people, there's at least one of us psychedelic sheeps in the family or black sheep in the family. There's always one, and the whole family is just not awake, or somebody might be partly awake, but then they believe in this. It's just, you just don't see the entire family awake. And then there's these chickens.
Ironically, I have felt more alone and isolated when I was with certain partners throughout my life because they were not awake, and I didn't have the option to go find someone that's like more like-minded like me. So it was really isolating and I've been there, done that. So I get people that are saying that, and it is frustrating. More and more people now are waking up though. I mean, years ago I couldn't talk to anybody. That's why I developed that radio talk show, so I could talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Is there anybody out there? Basic one of those.
Yeah, that's cute. So is the chicken.
Yeah, so chickens, after the price of eggs went up. So this chicken must have went on strike and got a raise.
Yes. She went and got some bling, and she's earned every bit of it.
It looks like Stella's got her groove right now.
Oh, wow, this is good stuff.
She is strutting it up. So, living your best life. I see a river in the background. I think, boy, that is some nice scenery there. Two very close friends just enjoying the beauty of nature. Nature is beautiful. And we're heading back to, basically, we're going back to the past in so many ways, to times of myth and legend. And we're going to be leaving this dark system behind. Again, stay organic, stay whole, have a daily spiritual practice. I think it needs to be priority number one. I saw a comment earlier where somebody said, I've been doing all this prepping, and then I realized all I really had to do really to affect the greatest change in my life was up my vibrations.
Yes, it's a process, but worth it.
That's true. I mean, the other thing is we've been programmed to believe certain things. And so you got to do what you can do in the present moment and find acceptance in certain things. And, that was my hardest thing. I wanted perfection. I wanted to do this. And I was like a little kid stamping my feet. And you know what? Life isn't that way all the time. But if you raise your vibration, you go within, you can attract what you're really looking for, your highest joy. And so sometimes we feel stuck in a position, whether it be a job, whether it be a relationship. I mean, it could be multiple things. But, if you go in the direction of your heart, and one of the things I'll never, ever, ever forget, and this is whenever Terry and I were channeling the Andromedans, and they were very, 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 very high vibrational, and it was just awesome to be in their presence. And I said, how can I go? Like, I'm ready to check out of this thing. I mean, I want to be blissed out. I want to be in this energy forever, kind of. And they said to me, what are you willing to give up? And I was like, oh my God, what am I willing to make? Shoot, I thought I was ready for this. I'd have to give up my kids. I'd have to give up. I'm like, what do, you know what? Let me get back to you on that one. Do you know what I'm saying?
And by the way, when Joe's talking about Terry, this is Terry right here. And so, this is one of Joe's 2 channels as we've been working with him to not only get this one up and going after years of basically doing the doctor thing, and now really wanting to get back into sharing all this with you guys. This is Universal Talking. As you see, 757 subscribers. And then this really, when did we debut this? Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday we debuted this. So this is his A Guiding Light channel, which is a resurrection of a channel he had in the past. So, again, if you haven't subscribed yet to his channels, please do go over and subscribe. He re-upped a talk show here he had with Phyllis Schlemmer from years ago. And then this one right here is an exclusive, again, over on his channels that we did the other day too. So Cindy and I are in on this one. This is exclusively over on his channels again. So please do show him some love and join him over there as he is heading off into these new waters on his own, but also with us.
Yes, we're doing our part to get him, up there. He's another extremely bright light that can shine his light on so many others, and we need to support as much as we can.
I just re-listened to, after years, that third video that's on there, and it's A Guiding Light. Dr. Marra is interviewed by Scott Jordan. And it, in what is it, an hour and 48 minutes, over my lifetime, what I experienced and how I got to where I currently am almost today. This was, I don't know if it was 10 years ago or something, but I think a lot of people right now would resonate with that, the transition. And I mean, there's people have had near-death experiences. They've had, all kinds of different things. But it's really interesting how I came, because people always ask me, how did you go from a scientific mind to more of a spiritual mind? And, if you were to log in and listen to that, it's as I listened to it, I was like, oh my God, I forgot about all this change and all this and that and giving this up and all, my life is probably no different than a lot of yours out there, the listeners.
As always, guys, much love, much gratitude for you joining us. Make sure to subscribe to all these channels, as always, and we invite you over to Patreon as well for exclusives each week. Source bless. Thank you for being with us. Namaste.
Namaste.